Broadcasting, the sports leader in Southeast Georgia.
World famous. The world famous Butch and Bob Show.
World famous Butch and Bob Show right here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jessup, Big Dog Country Radio. And Bob, we've got a special guest on the phone with us right now. Take it away, Bob.
On the phone with us is First District Congressman Buddy Carter, successful in his re-election campaign. So we'll start with that, Buddy. First of all, congratulations on being re-elected.
Well, thank you, Bob. It's obviously an honor and a privilege. This will be my fifth term, and I have to tell you, the shine hasn't worn off for me. I'm excited every time I go back up to Washington, D.C. As you all know, this is my home. This is where I've lived all my life, where I intend to live the rest of my life. And you can imagine what an honor it is to represent the people that in the area where you grew up in. So it really is an honor.
Well, you won by a large margin, 60%, 40%. You're one of the few people we talk to that tries to at least work across the aisle. You mentioned that several times. You try to look for the good, try to work together with the Democratic Party, but it just seems like Washington's at a standstill. The nation's at a standstill. It just looks like it's a 50-50 split.
Yeah, it does. You're exactly right. I mean, if you look at this election, it just finished a couple of days ago. Well, it's not finished because we don't know a lot of the results yet, but it does look like it's going to be very close in both chambers, in both the House and in the Senate, and it's indicative, I think, of the way America is today, and that's something we have to keep in mind.
Everybody's looking for that red wave. What happened to that? I mean, everybody thought for sure that the way the country is right now, where the direction it was going, it would be a big red wave. It just didn't happen. What do you think happened?
Well, that's a good question, and I think it's something that our conference will certainly be talking about when we go back in next Monday. And I think that'll be something we'll be reviewing, what we do right, what we do wrong. One thing that I do have to say, I tell you, my confidence in polls has diminished, and not just this election, but in previous elections too. The pollsters don't seem to be getting it right anymore. So I'm not sure how much credence you can put into polls anymore. And the only important poll, of course, is the one on Election Day. But I think a lot of these polls are misleading, and there were a lot of close races. But if you look at the ebb and flow of the campaign, I think the Democrats got a little bit of bump when the Dobbs decision was made concerning Roe versus Wade with the Supreme Court. That seemed to give them a little bit of a charge in their campaigns. But overwhelmingly, what I heard throughout our district, it had to do with inflation, had to do with crime, had to do with the southern border and those drugs coming across.
The pollsters were dead on in the state of Georgia. They had Governor Kemp with a nice lead. He won by a nice lead. They had the race between Herschel and Warnock is a dead heat, and neither got 50%. And speaking of that race, that once again looks like it could decide the balance of power up in Washington, D.C. It could come down to that one seat like it did 4 years ago.
Yeah, it does look that way, and let's hope that voters, particularly Republican voters, have learned an important lesson, and that is how important runoffs are. Bob, the only election I ever lost was a runoff election. I was president of my freshman class up at Young Harris College, and then my sophomore year I ran for student senate president, and came within 2 votes of winning outright, but had to go to a runoff and settle my duff, and sure enough, got beat up in the runoff, deservedly so, because I didn't do what I should have done, and that is, it depends on who gets their voters out. And another example would be in my race that I just finished. My opponent, who ran in the Democratic primary, Joyce Griggs, she got 48.8% of the vote in the primary, but then in the runoff, the one who got the voters out was my ultimate opponent, and he was more organized, had more money, and was able to get his voters out in the runoff. So that's going to be the key in the Walker-Warnock race, is who can get their voters out. And, a lot of people were stimulated by the governor's race. A lot of Republicans were, and a lot of Democrats. But now this is going to be the only thing on the ticket. There'll be a lot of interest, and it is national interest, because the balance of power in the Senate could once again depend on Georgia. But, it's just, again, we just got to make sure we get our voters out.
Well, the state headline today and yesterday was that if the key to this race is Herschel Walker needs to ally himself with the governor and get the governor to help him in this campaign. They stated that the governor got 200,000 more votes than Herschel Walker in the election on Tuesday. There's a big story that Herschel Walker and the governor did not campaign together at all. The governor and the rest of the GOP party had a big push the last couple of days all together. Herschel was off by himself. So you're friends with Herschel Walker. Are you going to stress to him to ally himself with the governor and look for the governor's help?
Absolutely, and I think Mitch McConnell has already indicated that that needs to happen because he has reached an agreement with the governor. Mitch, of course, has a big Senate PAC, the Senate leadership PAC, and they've reached agreement where they're going to use the ground game of Governor Kemp, and that's, I think, a very smart move. I know Mitch McConnell takes a lot of criticism, but I have to say that he is a very astute politician. He gets it. He understands it. And I never underestimate what he does politically. But you're exactly right. I think the key for Herschel Walker is going to be, ride those coattails of a very popular governor, and deservedly so. Brian Kemp's done a great job as our governor, and I'm just so happy that he won by such a convincing margin. And I'm going to be encouraging Herschel. That's what you need to do. You need, and all of us in the Republican Party need to get out for Herschel.
The key we talked about the other day after Tuesday, it's only 4 weeks now. It used to be 7 weeks before the runoff. They've lowered it to 4 weeks, and it's the holidays. It's who can get their voters to come back to the poll. So how important will that be for both parties? I mean, like I said, you got so much going on. People are holiday shopping, you got their mind on other things. So how do you stress to get people back to the polls in this short period of time?
Well, first of all, I went through one of those 7-week runoffs, and it is brutal. Let me tell you. And mine was in the heat of the summer. It was painful. So I was really glad to hear that the state of Georgia had shortened it to 4 weeks. But you're right, David. We've got to get it. I believe it's December 9th is when it is, or somewhere around there.
December 8th is the date. Tuesday, December 8th.
December 8th. Okay. Yeah. December 8th, and again, whoever gets their voters out, that's going to be the Tuesday.
I'm sorry, December.
There's no question about it.
December 6th. I'm sorry, December 6th is the Tuesday.
December 6th. Okay.
I don't know why I keep saying 8th. It's December. Right. Yeah, we got to get the right date. December 6th.
Yeah, we do. December 6th. That's very important.
Do you have any idea how many weeks early voting? With it only being 4 weeks, is going to be 2 weeks early voting, or will it be this 3? Or do you know?
I think we start the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay, I'll have to check with Tammy. Tammy's probably got that answer. I'll have that on Monday, but I was just curious how many.
But that would be important, Bob, to make sure your listeners know.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be a Saturday early voting too, thrown in that like they did this last time.
Yeah.
But again, how does it feel to be reelected? Like I said, like you mentioned it many times when we talked to you. Campaigns are tough. I mean, you got a lot of people working with you, for you, family, friends. You have to get the campaign all the way through the district. So, what was the celebration like? Where did you celebrate?
Well, quite honestly, Bob, as you and Butch know, and as you listeners know, I work very hard. I just, I like to work hard. I worked hard as a pharmacist. I work hard as a congressperson. I just, I enjoy keeping busy. So it hasn't really been a big change for me because, I'm not going to miss a beat. I'm going to continue to work as hard as I can. I'm, as I said earlier, it's such an honor and privilege to serve in this position. I take it very seriously, and I work very hard at it. But it is a good feeling. I'm not going to kid you. It is. It does relieve a lot of unintended stress, to be quite honest with you. You just never know what's going to happen in a ballot box. I've been doing this a long time, many years. I started when I was 10, by the way. So that explains that. But nevertheless, I've been doing it a long time, and it just never gets old. And it's just, I just love every minute of it. I really do. I just love every minute of it.
Did you get to celebrate? Where was your celebration at?
I did. We were down in Bryan County in Richmond Hill at Fishtails. My good friend Butch was hosted that party for us at Bryan County Republican Party. We were there, and we had a great time. We had a great turnout. We had all the media there. It was really good.
Congressman Carter, the President Biden is on his way, or probably arrived by now, to the G20 summit in Egypt. Are you familiar as a congressman of what the agenda is going to be, what they're going to be focusing on?
Yes, that happens to be the climate change summit, and that is that last year it was in London. This year it's in Egypt. It's a great meeting, a great time to get together and discuss. And it's important because that's one thing that I think quite honestly, a lot of Democrats don't understand. They think, it's only America who's got to stop our carbon emissions. This is a global problem. Climate change is a global problem, and unless you address it from a global perspective, it's not going to do any good whatsoever what the United States does. Yes, we need to be the leader in technology and innovation. I agree. And we need to make sure that we are marketing that and that we're sending that out. But at the same time, we've got to have a buy-in from these other countries. So that's what that summit is about. And it's a good summit and a good opportunity to stress just how important it is from a global perspective that we address climate change.
Now, President Putin's not going to be there from Russia, he says, because of fears of being assassinated. But other people say inside word is because of his health. Do you know?
I have not had anything, nothing has been communicated to us in Congress through any intelligence, but I've seen the same thing in the paper that you've seen, that there are questions about his health. I would believe either one of those stories. I don't blame him. If I were Vladimir Putin, I'd be scared of being
I wouldn't leave my bunker. And then President Biden's supposed to be meeting with the chairman of China in a one-on-one meeting there. Would you like to be a fly on the wall in that room to see what there's going to be what's going to be discussed in there?
Absolutely, and quite honestly, we identified the three greatest challenges in our country that the Republican conference did as being China, our debt, and education. And China debt, and education. And those are the three greatest challenges we think this country is facing right now. And certainly Xi Jinping needs to, he's in power. We know that. He's running China, and I don't know what they're going to discuss, but I certainly hope that the president has success in stressing to him just how important it is that China, they obviously want to take over economically. They want to be the economic leader in this world. It's just a farce. I've said many times before, and I continue to say, China is not our friend, and they are not our adversary. They are our enemy. And some people say, well, buddy, that's a strong word to use, enemy, but they are, and we have to treat them as such. I mean, their goal is quite clear, and that is to become the economic leader here in the world, and not only the economic, but also the military.
Man, they seem to have a leader who has that vision and that desire to be able to do that, and no one to keep his power in balance. So he's like Putin. He's pretty much getting his way right now.
He is, and don't think for 1 minute that two of those aren't cooperating in some sense, because they are. And that's why it's extremely important for us in the United States to make sure that we are nurturing our relationships with our allies. And making sure that those relationships are strong and continue to be strong.
I know that when the Congressman, I'm not exactly sure when y'all go back into session, but what are going to be some of the top 2 or 3 things that y'all are going to be looking at and working on when y'all get back into session?
Well, we go back into session next Monday, the 14th, and we'll be back in Washington for what's referred to as the lamed-up session. Now, we're going to be in for a week, then we're out for Thanksgiving, and then we'll be back in for December. And a lot of what happens then will depend on what happens with these elections. And we may not know the results even when we get back in next Monday. But we do know there are some things that we've got to take care of. One has got to be our budget. And we kicked I shouldn't say we, but the majority kicked the can down the road, and we've got until December the 6th, or excuse me, I believe it's December the, I'm not sure. I think it may be the 5th or somewhere along there. But we kicked the can down that far, Now, there's a lot of talk that the majority party, the Democrats, while they're still in charge, they may try to pass a budget to get them through the fiscal year, which will be September 30th. So that's something to look for, because they may want to go ahead if they know they're not going to be in the majority in the House, and I still think they're not. I still think we're going to take over the majority. It's just not going to be as large a majority as we thought it was. But nevertheless, they may want to go ahead and take care of their president while he's in office and get them a budget, get him a budget to get him through the fiscal year.
I know that, in all Republican congressmen's minds and women's minds must be thinking, we take over and get the majority in the House the first part of the year. Who's going to be the Speaker of the House? Have y'all talked about that? Who would be the Speaker? Would take over Nancy's place for the Republicans?
We have, and Kevin McCarthy is our minority leader right now, and he is running for Speaker. No one has come out to run against him at this point. There are all kind of rumblings from the far right in our party about trying to find an alternative candidate, but I still think it's going to be Kevin, and he deserves it. He has worked hard. He has gotten us to the point that we're at right now. If it had not been for him, we would not be at this point taking over the majority. And just let me add this. You're right. We're not going to be in as large a majority as we thought we were, but we're still going to be in the majority. And that's strong. I mean, even if you're just one seat in the majority, you're still in the majority. You control the agenda, and that's significant.
Well, that's what he said.
We have to keep in mind.
That's what they said. They don't. Kevin said is the fact that they do not hand out different size gavels. So if you have one vote, you still get the same size gavel.
That's exactly.
And do you know what this means for Congressman Carter, or Congressman, if the Republicans take over the House? What does that mean for you?
Well, thank you. I am running for chairman of the Budget Committee, and it's extremely important to me. I serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee, but I am the designee from the Energy and Commerce Committee to the Budget Committee, and I am running for chair of that committee. We said earlier the three things that we've identified as being the greatest threats to our country are China, our debt, and education. Well, our debt is something that I am adamantly focused on. I want us to address the fact that we got $31 trillion in debt. That's intergenerational theft. We are digging a hole so deep for our children, for our grandchildren, and for their children that I don't know that they could ever get out of it unless we restore fiscal sanity to Washington, D.C. This country's in trouble.
You are the congressman of the 1st District of the state of Georgia. You have a lot of bases in your district. I know that you want to wish everyone a good, safe Veterans Day, and for us to thank the veterans for their service to this country.
Absolutely, Butch. Thank you for mentioning that. Today is a very special day because it is Veterans Day, and every day should be Veterans Day. I think about all the freedoms that we have in this country. But I think that perhaps one of the greatest that we don't recognize sometimes, we just exercised this week, and that was the freedom to vote, the freedom to choose our elected officials, to choose our public servants. That, to me, is one of the greatest freedoms that we have in this country, and that's what so many of our veterans sacrifice for and serve for. So let us always remember all the freedoms that we have in this country and who we owe for those freedoms, and certainly let us thank them for the freedom to vote that we were able to exercise this week.
Bob?
Again, on the phone, Carter. I'd like to get an update. What's the latest on the Ukraine? I saw today where some of the Russians are retreating. You hearing any update on that? It's amazing what Ukraine's been able to do in this war.
It really is, and it is important because we get back to our allies and how important it is that all of our allies, particularly NATO, continue to support Ukraine. They have done just an unbelievable job. It's amazing. I think most people would agree. Can't believe that they still have control of their country, and it appears that they are getting the upper hand. They're actually taking back land that Russia had overtaken at one point. So kudos to Ukraine. We are with you. We support Ukraine. Again, as I've said so often, I don't want to see any boots on the ground, any American boots on the ground over there. I don't want to see any American bloodshed over there. But at the same time, I do believe that we should continue to support them, giving them the weapons that they need and making sure that they have the support that they need.
Well, buddy, again, we always enjoy having you on the show. Again, congratulations on your victory Tuesday night, and we'll look forward to having you on the show many times in the year 2023.
Well, thank you, Butch and Bob, both of y'all, and again, thank our veterans. Today is Veterans Day. We owe them so much, and just on a personal note, again, I want to thank the people of the 1st Congressional District, particularly in Wayne County. Wayne County was the #1 county for us in the whole district, as it has been so many times. So we appreciate that very much.
Okay, Congressman. You take care and safe travels, and look forward to talking to you again soon sometime, okay?
Thank y'all.
All right, take care.
All right, Congressman Buddy Carter, our special guest this morning here on the world-famous Butch and Bob show. And Bob, is good to hear from Buddy so soon after the election.
Again, congrats to him. Another term in Washington, D.C.
As Congressman, they have to run every 2 years, so they're basically always in campaign mode,
I say he's been a regular guest, and we appreciate him. I said he's got a lot more knowledge than we got. So he has the inside of what's going on in Washington, D.C. I think our listeners enjoy hearing from him, so we appreciate him taking his time out of his schedule to be with us here on the Butch and Bob Show.
Okay.
Deeply appreciate it.
Well, let's go from talking to the congressman and politics to football. Football Friday night here in Wayne County.
The weather forecast looked like it's going to get better as the day goes on, so it should be a good crowd. Tickets available at Sheffield. Tickets available at the high school day between 11:30 and 1:30. Tickets available at the gate. Again, they want to encourage veterans. That ceremony is taking place today at 10 a.m. You can pick up a ticket and a voucher there. If you don't make it to the ceremony, you can also call the high school. Again, they want as many veterans there as possible. Again, it's a free ticket voucher for some food as well. So, again, if you're a veteran out there in Wayne County, take advantage of that and come on out and support the Yellow Jackets tonight at JC Stadium. Should be a good ball game. Again, they got an excellent quarterback. He's thrown for over 2,000 yards this year. Should be a fun night at JC Stadium. But, again, the winner gets the winner of the Perry-Shaw matchup. If Perry wins and we win, we go to Perry. If Wayne wins and Shaw wins, Shaw would come to JC Stadium for week 2. So we're pulling for Shaw in that game against Perry.
Okay, and speaking of veterans, the Jessup VFW is going to be hosting a luncheon for the veterans and their families today, no charge. Normally, the Jessup VFW has their Veterans Day ceremony at the courthouse at 9 o'clock in the morning, but because of the weather today, they have moved that to inside, so it'll all take place at the Jessup VFW beginning at 12 noon. They'll have a ceremony to honor the veterans at 12 noon at the Jessup VFW, and then right after that, they'll have lunch for the veterans and their families, and that's at the Jessup VFW in the main hall there at 436 Project Street here in Jessup. Veterans and your families go for a free meal and enjoy it. And everyone's invited to the ceremony to honor veterans that begins at 12 noon at the Jessup VFW. So just another VFW function going on there, and that is that change for the VFW from their normal ceremony to honor veterans in front of the courthouse at 9 a.m. on Veterans Day, but because of the weather, everything's going to be at 12 noon at the Jessup VFW. So a big ball game tonight. I'd like to wish the Wayne County cheerleading squad safe travels as they go to state competition today, right, Bob?
They're on their way to Macon. This today. I think they might already be there. I think they were supposed to be on the floor at 10:15 this morning.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so they left early then. And so it's all that going on. We wish all those athletes the best. We'd like to congratulate all those athletes that you've had on the radio the last couple of days. They've gotten scholarships for golf and for baseball and for competition cheerleading, right?
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of scholarships, so 5 of them that I know of right off the bat that's been handed out this week that Wayne County athletes have been able to secure for their college education. And it's good that the 2 golfers are going to the same college. So they get to still continue to practice, and then you got the 2 baseball players are going to ABAC in Tifton.
Right. Got 2 baseball players going to ABAC, 2 golfers at Coastal, and the cheerleader Summer Eastwood going to Piedmont College. So it was just a great ceremony Wednesday at the high school auditorium. See 5 athletes go on to college and athletic career.
That's just great for them to sign that dotted line and get those scholarships. Wish them all the best. The baseball players, they still got their season coming up this February, March, and April, and into May.
Golfers do too.
Yeah, so the golfers do too, because there's a spring
finished
sport.
Second last year, got a chance to win it this year.
All right, Bob. Anything else on your mind this morning on this Veterans Day?
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. That's right. Georgia Bulldogs play tomorrow against Mississippi State at Mississippi State. All right. The world-famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO, brought to you by First Southern Bank, Van's Barbecue, Murphy Builder Supply, and Oak Quinn and Associates.